got a great tone to play, you know. Just,
Hello.
Have you ever snogged a lady?
We had a technical problem.
Are we on? Yeah, we're on there.
Can I swear? Shit!
Oh, yeah.
Right, are you recording? Yeah.
Next week, this week, tomorrow, today. Join me, John Fox, at the opening of a brand new episode of Crunch and Roll. There'll be inappropriate anecdotes, tales of wistful regrets, and at least one mention of Richard Park. Plus, fun for all the family, ample free parking, and the Crunch and Roll street team will even be there. So don't miss the brand new episode of Crunch and Roll.
Was that all right? My guest today is somebody that I've worked with at 3 different radio stations over the years. He's got a CV as long as your arm, which takes in a fair few heavy-hitting stations. It's the lovely Dan Morfitt, and we chat about how loyalty to his former co-presenter didn't get him anywhere, the leather Chesterfield sofa that could tell a story or two, and also the time the worst swear word went out on air at 8:10 in the morning on a national radio station. Just so you know, it's a little bit sweary, and it does contain some adult content. Oh yeah. Let's meet and greet Dan Morfitt. How are you, mate?
I'm good, lad. I'd hug you, but this is Zoom.
Well, we always ask our guests to send us the list of radio stations, and yours is long, mate.
Yeah, but it's all about the length and not the quality, isn't it, with me?
Yeah.
So,
well, look, Dan, run me through your station. Start at Sure FM.
So all the best people start in student radio, I think you'll believe. So that was Sure in Sheffield. I then got a chance with a guy called Anthony Gay at Hallam FM. That didn't last long.
How long were you at Hallam FM for? I didn't realise. See, I genuinely, I've known you we've been friends for many years. I didn't realise you started professionally at Hallam FM.
I did 6 months at Hallam FM, including your weekend overnights, which is now live on a fader from Manchester. There was basically me and another guy there there was something about the late 90s, early 90s where every radio station had a person called Monkey Boy on air. And I think Matt Jagger was Monkey Boy. It was a weird thing. D Ford, if you're listening to Crunch and Roll, explain this. Steve King, if you can explain anything, please explain the moniker Monkey Boy being used across all stations. It's just weird. So yeah, Hallam FM didn't last long.
On to the next.
I did a stint at Key 103, and I don't know how. So I was covering overnights for ages, and this is post James Stanage, who I don't know how it works with him as a DJ because he was legally deaf, but an amazing broadcaster. There was a woman on air who I taught how to use Dalet. I think she's now on BBC Radio Manchester, so all power to her. But yeah, Key 103, that didn't last long. Yeah, as you can tell, I don't stick around in a lot of places that quickly. I'm the Harold Shipman of locum DJing.
yeah. I mean, you've got the beard. You've got the beard. So Key 103.
Key 103. Soul City and Hull Local Radio were these trial licenses in Hull, and it eventually became KCFM. So I did them with Hull Local Radio, which was done in the studios of P Squared, and P Squared make Myriad and Powerlog and stuff like that. They were a Hull company on Bev Road in Hull. Right next to one of the premier brothels of East Yorkshire. Yeah. And I'm not even joking. The brothel was right next door to this office. So the studio was on the top floor and the knocking shop was next door. The number of high-powered sports cars that came into the P Squared car park at all times of night was astonishing. But there I started to do a radio show with a guy called Pete Mills, who now runs Hull Kingston Radio in Hull, which is a community radio station. His wife is now at BBC Humberside. And that's where me and him started. And then from there, we went to some place called Viking.
I remember, because obviously myself and Tom were doing breakfast at the time, and you two bounded through the door, and we were like, hang on, why is there another male double act stepping on our toes here? And then we listened.
We won weekend overnights, man.
And we listened, and then we felt fine.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. I got asked by Viking management to dump my radio partner at that time, and I said no. And then I didn't work there for about a year.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
That's loyalty for you.
Yeah, but let's just focus on Viking, because of course we're both Hull lads, and
yeah,
to do a show on your hometown station is amazing.
Yeah, it's everything you want and less. And I say that because when I came back from my second stint at Viking, when the waters had calmed, first I got put on overnights, and then we lost our overnight guy Dan O'Connell to Galaxy. Yeah. He went straight to drive, and then we lost Jim, who did the lates, in pretty quick succession. So I had an accelerated run up the ladder, and I got given the late night love affair, which is basically for prisoners at Hull Prison to write letters.
Is that the late night love affair with Hugh Rice Jewelers' Gifts as Precious as Time?
Yes, yes, it is.
That's the one, yeah.
With gifts as precious as time. Yeah.
You're so right about the prison thing, because I presented that same show, and we got a letter from Homicide Police saying, listen, you just stop reading out the letters because it's just inside information.
Yeah.
Genius. Absolutely genius.
I'd like to think there was Charles Bronson in Hull Prison, just listening to me on 96.9. That would have been a lovely image. But Viking was fun. I think we were probably there in the last days of Sodom and Gomorrah when it comes to Viking, because the things that I wish I could legally tell you, some of them involve you, and some of them involve this oxblood, slightly brown Chesterfield leather sofa in Comprod, which was, I don't know how anybody could sit on there without becoming pregnant. And there was also a boardroom in Viking, in the boathouse, which was, if those walls had eyes, it would be horrific. They also had a music store upstairs, if you remember. And if you ever got the key to that, you knew that somebody else had used it the previous day. Yeah. Because you could just feel it on your fingers. And the news booth at Viking FM. Again, thank God it's soundproof.
Right, so wow. Viking. And then, because you went on to Kerrang, which was a fucking cool station.
Yeah. Went from Viking, and then in about 18 months went national. Two reasons why I wanted to go to Kerrang. Foxy and Tom had a show there, I think on Monday nights.
Yeah,
Raw. And then Jim Colson was there as well. So people confused me and Jim a lot. So Jim Colson is, I think, in my humble opinion, one of the funniest guys ever to go on the radio. He worked at XFM down in London for a bit. He also worked at 2BR, which me and him both did as well, which is this little station in Burnley, Colne Valley and Pendle up in Lancashire. But Jim went there, and I was just jealous basically of him. So I followed him again, and then he effed off to London like Dick Whittington. But that was the main reason why I went. So I went there to do cover for 4 months, and then they gave me a contract. And then the boss who gave me my contract left, and then some other boss inherited me, which was the overarching idea of my career. If I ever got anywhere, I got hired by somebody, and then they would leave subsequently about 2 weeks later. That's my career in a nutshell.
I'm guessing you have the fondest memories at your time at Kerrang.
Yes. So moving from Hull to Birmingham doesn't sound like a big move, but it's like moving from 1985 to 2007 immediately. It's like moving from a village to moving to the biggest city in the world. Not that Birmingham is, but it was a really stark difference, and it was nice. Everybody was sort of pulling in the same direction there, which was amazing. it was one of the last few stations that actually had investment for a few months. We were bigger than Six Music when we were there, way bigger. We won every Sony going, which was nice. We had a Guinness tap in the little boardroom. So I usually had a pint of Guinness in the morning or a can of Monster, and then it would come back at around 10 to 10. Yeah, really, really good times at Kerrang Radio. An amazing audience, an amazing chance to play decent music, and the Hoosiers.
I'm not having that. I like the Hoosiers.
Oh, goodbye, Mr. John.
I do. So let's go just quickly, because then I want to move on to some other subjects. So Q Radio,
okay.
BRMB, then Beacon, Wyvern, Mercia, Free.
Everybody's worked there.
Yeah, pretty much. All the trash. Radio Aire, Rock FM.
Oh, God. Rock FM's good. Rock FM's lovely. Lovely place.
So, I don't remember you. So you went to Radio Aire and then Rock. So what were you doing at Rock?
I was doing loads of cover for Webbo, and they wanted me to do more. And I was desperate so Preston is where Rock FM was in St. Paul's Church. And my wife is from just outside of Preston. So that all joined up nicely. I was hot rocking at the church for a bit. I knew Howell and Jamie there, who did breakfast, who also worked at Kerrang. Really great guys. And I didn't want to stick around, which was a shame because they liked me there. But I went, and then some guy called Jordan North came in. And yeah, I sort of warmed the chair for big names. That's my job. I warm the chair for people that then go on to become stars of screen and stage and radio. So,
and then you move on to Breeze.
Yeah, I did a week at Breeze with a wonderful girl called Michelle, who now is on Sky Sports News. And it was the same week where they got a brand new piece of playout software from RCS. And it was the most miserable week of radio I've ever done. I was staying in this bizarre little hotel next to Bristol Airport, which is an oxymoron. It's an airfield with a massive windsock. And I had to go into the offices of Breeze, and Breeze was the cellar door operation in Bristol, and we've got mutual friends that worked there. It was in the most awful block from the 60s that probably has been knocked down now. But I thought, I'll give it a whirl for a bit. Couldn't do it. Really terrible at it. Awful.
All right. So Radio Yorkshire, That's TV, Signal 1, good on you. BBC Radio Northampton, WFMU. So that WFMU, that's in, because we should explain. We've not even explained it. You're actually in New York now. You're living in New York.
Well, we haven't explained it well because I'm not actually in New York City. I'm across the water from New York City.
Yeah,
so imagine Manhattan.
That's the same thing, mate. Don't try and get smart with me. You're in New York.
Yeah, but it's like living in Beverley in East Yorkshire and saying you're from Leeds. It's like, no, it's... so Manhattan's literally in front of me there.
Yeah.
And we're across the Hudson. And we're in Jersey City, which is in New Jersey, which means we pay less tax. So, yeah, the Empire State Building is about 15 minutes away from my house. So, yeah, that's where I'm living. WFMU is a free-form radio station. It is not commercial. It has no news obligations. It has no adverts. It has no jingles. It has no production. It just is whatever the DJ wants to play on there. So it can be amazing avant-garde Japanese minimalist techno on Bakelite vinyl 78 at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Or it can be me just playing lots and lots of pop. So I work at WFMU, I do fill-ins, I do my own show as well. It's really fun. We raised about $1.5 million over about 3 weeks in March, and that keeps the station going for the year.
Wow.
It's in Rockland County, Hudson Valley, which goes all the way up to a place called Poughkeepsie. It goes all over North Jersey and all over New York City.
And is that the stepping stone to Z100?
No, because with absolute pleasure, American radio is terrible.
Really?
It's probably at least 25 years behind the UK. And I mean that in the nicest possible way. It sounds like mid-90s commercial radio in the UK. And a lot of it now is text me now and I'll put you in the cash machine. And it's a lot like the UK in that regard. And there's lots and lots of adulation of Z100. And there's WCBS, where there's a guy called Broadway Bill on there. And he's this guy who does these rambling but sharp links in about 30 seconds, and he always hits the vocal. But I've heard him crash the vocal umpteenth times now. I don't really listen anymore. Yeah, there's a certain tranche of British DJs who are of a certain age, like mid-60s to like mid-80s, who thinks that's how radio should be. And it's like, maybe a bit here and there, but it's had its time, and it's massive over here.
Well, there's nothing wrong with the commission.
testing.
The dealer does a lot of work.
Well, I'm all for being open-minded, but I'm not all for discussing this live on air. Thank you.
We are profoundly sorry.
All right, let's get into the juicy questions then, because this is what Crunch and Roll is all about. Let's be honest, Dan, when you and I meet up for a beer, it's the stories that we never share on air. And that's
we can't?
No, because we would be hauled off. But these are the stories that we want to get on this podcast, because this is the real industry. You know, the fun stuff that we all got up to. Whilst it's true, though. I always say my happier memories are off air than they are on. Do you agree?
Definitely. Especially at places like Viking, where the social life was probably a much bigger part of it than on air, thankfully. And yeah, the social life was hectic at Viking. I think that's a polite way of saying it.
It was great.
Hectic.
It was great. We've already mentioned the Guinness tap in Kerrang. I mean, this is a stupid question for you. Ever been drunk on air?
That's a stupid question because you know the answer. So, so I think it was like my first proper overnight show. It was also the same night that Dan O'Connell had his leaving drinks before he left Viking to Galaxy. And it was in Jazz Bar in the Old Town in Hull, which was a great bar. And then I ended up drinking a lot, getting to Viking, which is at Hull Marina. And I had a kebab with me. And I think the next thing I knew was you and Simon Green, probably at about 5:25 in the morning, coming in, wondering why the emergency tape was doing another circuit. And I was asleep on a kebab in the main studio in Viking on my first show. How I got away with that, I don't know. That was good.
Fair play. Well, you did the professional thing of just falling asleep as opposed to being on air.
Go on air drunk, kids. You've got a career ahead of you.
All right, now, awards dues, because you were obviously part of EMAP. The EMAP awards were just amazing.
Oh.
Just amazing. Any memories from those?
Yeah. Have you ever seen Spartacus, the TV show, where there's lots and lots of Romans having sex in lots and lots of places? That was basically the EMAP Awards. So there was one EMAP Awards, I say one, where in Edinburgh, of all places, that EMAP Awards, I remember getting so wasted, I was sick in a bowl of Budweisers and Reefs on the table of Dr. Fox. Not you.
No.
Neil Fox. And I remember there was a guy who was in the toilets that night helping out Columbu's GDP. I lost my pants as well, that awards do, because I was wearing a kilt because it was in Scotland, obviously. I once went to the Q Awards and got Lily Allen dropped her shoulder into me, which was nice in retrospect.
Yeah.
She was wearing this beautiful white chiffon slip dress. Wow. But awards dues are normally rubbish. There's normally a rubbish chicken dinner, Budweiser, which is, an anal gland of a beer, and the wrong people always win. But that's good because you can then shout at them from the side. I once went to an awards do where Steve Lamacq was there, and me and my friend started pummeling him with peanuts, going, "Eat your B word." And we didn't win an award that night. And I don't know if that was decided before or after we started throwing peanuts at Steve Lamacq.
I'm not sure if Kerrang, because the caller stations perhaps didn't do things like PAs and stuff. I mean, we've got mutual friends who famously opened supermarkets and were asked to sit in a trolley with a pair of headphones around the neck. Any bad PAs that you were asked to do?
Yes and no. They were all bad, but they all paid extremely well.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
So the balance is there. I once opened up a Chinese restaurant on Broad Street in Birmingham. Which was great because I got paid 4 figures and all I had to do was turn up in a suit, which was like, why am I wearing a suit? I work for Kerrang. No, turn up in a suit and wax lyrical about their chow mein. But that paid nicely. I also did an afternoon outside of Wilco's in Hales Owen.
Yeah.
That was amazing. I got paid very well for that. But I've done some nice PAs as well. I turned on the Christmas lights when I was at BRMB in Brindley Place with Roy Wood from ELO. So, balance. And Postman Pat.
Who got the biggest cheer? I bet it was Postman Pat.
Postman Pat.
Yeah.
But nobody knew who Roy or Holly were. So it was really, really strange. It's like, this man's a musical genius. He doesn't need to be here. He literally earns enough from Christmas every year to sit on his backside if he wants to.
We're having a party.
Oh, yeah. So whilst we're on the subject of the great star that is Postman Pat, other celebrity stories. I mean, you must, especially, I keep going back to Kerrang, but that was a cool station.
Yeah, because half the celebrities worked on the damn thing. So we had Katie Lawler there, Tim Shaw, who now is like a big international TV star on Car SOS.
Can I just say, because I worked with Tim Shaw at BRMB, and his show was crazy. And to watch him work, he was a genius.
So Tim Shaw is a certifiable genius, and he knew the absolute limits of where he could go. And very rarely did he go beyond those limits, which was amazing of him. But that show, The Asylum on Kerrang Radio, was a brilliant show. I got to meet Tony Visconti there, who is the Uber producer of David Bowie and Iggy Pop and Lou Reed back in the day. And Tony Visconti, he liked women's breasts, which was lucky because we had lots of topless glamour models in Kerrang at that time of night. It had an open door policy where people could literally walk in off the streets and go into a radio studio. You would not have this now, mainly because of Anton Deck and Jonathan Ross and Russell Brand. Most nights we used to have people of brilliant occupations like dominatrixes. So there were a fair few nights where I had sadomasochistic rituals imparted upon my body. That was an eye-opener. But the main thing, the worst thing that we ever did on Asylum almost got a few of us sacked. In that, a guy who now still works in radio tried to get us all sacked. And it was sort of the creation of quite a cliquey atmosphere at Kerrang between them and us that changed once management changed. But one night, there was a contortionist woman who took one of the very expensive Sennheiser wireless mics and used it.
Yeah.
And Tim played a game on air going, "What's this sound?" And it was also met with people taking photos. And this isn't the age of digital cameras, even in like 2007. This was still like... And yeah, this woman managed to get a very expensive Sennheiser wireless mic up there. And so it went out on air. We were on a delay. And Tim went to ads and he just went, I can't broadcast that. And we all agreed, right, yeah, it's fine. These pictures then rematerialized, and we don't know how, because they were deleted, they torn up, everything that could possibly be done with photos. This guy who was leaving tried to get us all sacked. It's also the same guy who, when we were on breakfast, so it was me, Tim Shaw, Katie Lawler on breakfast on Kerrang. One morning, to temper the attitude of the boring office staff at Kerrang, we put a live microphone in the middle of the office.
Yeah.
And at approximately 9:13 on a Tuesday morning, a guy bent over the microphone and said the C word on breakfast radio on a national radio station in the UK. We immediately called Ofcom. Well, the boss did, and did a mea culpa. And he goes, the C word went up the transmitter on breakfast when children were possibly listening. And the next day we had to do an apology on the hour, every hour. I swear to God, not one person complained for this C word. Yeah, those were interesting times, good times. Yeah, Kerrang pushed the envelope of everything. And it's such a shame how it all ended for a lot of us. But kudos must go to the boss, Gordon, who was an amazing boss and had the better of the management of the larger radio company at the time.
Do you know, whilst we're talking about management, what's the worst piece of advice or feedback you were given?
Oh, that's easy. I had a boss who was still desperate to be on air, and me and him never saw eye to eye because I thought he was crap. Not only as a boss, but as an on-air personality and as an off-air personality. He had no personality. And he sat me down and told me what I should be doing on the Late Night Love Affair. And he goes, I did this thing called, Teardrops on Your Pillow or some crap. And I politely said, no. Oh, and by the way, I'm moving to Birmingham and you can't do anything to stop me because A, I'm out of contract, and B, it's the same company. And he tried to stop me and he tried to hold me to a contract that he hadn't materialized. So yeah, that's bad management practices. I've had some good bosses, but I've also had some just terrible bosses. And the bosses that you trust the most are the ones, I think, who have either done it and done it well, as in being a presenter, or done it and realized it's not their thing. I think the worst bosses that I had were the bosses who were still bitter that they weren't still on air.
Do you know, this is an
I'm trying to be polite here with my words.
No, you're doing a cracking job. And kindly, our mutual friend and the man sat next to me right now, Simon, has written down the name of that boss you're talking about, and I agree. Now, radio heroes and inspirations, because if I were going to go for a guess, you're not going to go for the norm.
What's the norm?
Well,
Tony Blackburn.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the reasons we on this. I mean, this podcast isn't. We didn't want it to be anarchy. It's not about what's your favourite jingle package and how much do you like Simon Mayo. But I mean, for me, I would say inspirations Mark and Lard. For me, now I still thought Moyles was great on Radio 1. So I'm just intrigued because I mean, who's your inspiration and who do you like now?
It's really, really easy to cite my inspirations. So I was never an anorak, I don't think. I only got into radio at 18. I never saw it as a career path, and I still don't see it as a career path. It's not a career, guys. Don't do it. Go and get a degree in something good. The people that really influenced me are two. Martin Kellner, who was on The Late Show on BBC North. So it was him and Edward Lepaglier and Le Chinois and Mrs. Merton. Yeah. That was amazing. That was proper radio I listened to under the covers. And on Radio 1, late night in the early noughties, Nicholas Andrew Argyle Campbell, Nicky Campbell, was amazing. I used to listen to him every night. He did a series of interviews with Frankie Howard on the radio, and it was fascinating. So the two main inspirations are definitely Kellner, who is peerless, and he's thankfully still brilliant on TalkSport at the weekend. Even though he's on overnights, just put him on normal time. He's not a bigot like other idiots on that radio station. And Nicky Campbell is amazing, I think. The man has got a brilliant ego in that he searches for his own name on Twitter. But I think he has earned that right because Nicky Campbell is up there. And he's an amazing kid. You know, he was in like some radio station up in Aberdeen, and then he went all the way to the dizzying heights of the Wheel of Fortune. So, yeah. and who do I rate now?
Yeah.
There's a really, really nice lad that we both worked with at Signal, who has just made his debut on Radio 1, Emile Franchi. He is an amazing talent. I like Ellis and John on 5 Live. I think they're good. They're probably the closest. John Robbins certainly is the closest thing you'll get to a real-life Alan Partridge, but he does it with complete self-knowledge and homage, and yeah, that's good radio. But thankfully I don't really listen to any other radio, because I'm a bit like you, John, in that well, you're still on air, but I went to the other side and became a producer, and wow, you sort of get to see how annoying you can be as a presenter, as a producer.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of gripping on there, but just another one. I just want to know, because I mean, you've moved around a little bit, Dan. Obviously, you're in New York. Well, you're not. You're in Jersey, whatever.
Yeah.
Back in the UK, the worst TSA, the place and city that you broadcast to.
Oh gosh, Leeds.
Well, straight in there. Now, is this because you and I are both Hull City fans, and Hull and Leeds, we just don't have that much love?
No, well, many reasons. I've got lots and lots of lovely listeners from Leeds. Some of them are still in contact with me, which is lovely. But I first moved to Leeds from Sheffield when I was about 23, because I did it as a bet. And
did you lose the bet?
No, my mate said if I moved to Leeds, I said to him, I'll move with you. Well, if you move to Leeds, I'll move with you. And he goes, I've got a contract. And I went, oh, cock. So I had to see that through. And I lasted about 9 months in Leeds the first time I lived there. And I didn't enjoy it. And then I moved my whole life situation, including my soon-to-be then wife, all the way up to Leeds, and we moved to Chapel Allerton, and we lived in Roundhay as well. We used to eat in a restaurant called the Flying Pizza, which was the favourite restaurant of one Sir Jimel Savile. And it used to have pictures of him all over the walls. And then suddenly there were these sort of bleached out spaces of where those pictures used to be on the wall. Leeds was a strange place. I went to join an old boss of mine who I really respected and still do. And he was an amazing guy. And I went there. First of all, I got the backup of a couple of deserving people who probably could and should have been given that opportunity, but they weren't, because that place needed a steady ship. Those people are Larry and Paul, who are lovely guys and are now big name comedy people, and they're fantastic. And the other guy whose nose was put out of joint was this like 18, 19-year-old kid, Danny Milo, who is now a breakfast star at Pulse in Bradford. He was a great talent then. He's a great talent now. He probably should have been given drive, but they needed someone like me to steady the ship. And I went in and I got decent radar, which for Radio Aire is saying something, because that place is impossible to get a book filled in. But I had as good a radar as breakfast, which didn't please everybody. I enjoyed my boss, but then...
That sounds wrong.
What, me enjoying my boss?
Yeah.
No, Ewan and I both saw radio in exactly the same way, I think. And he was pressurized because Radio Aire, if you don't know of this place, it's this radio station that has had virtually every big name work there, but it's never had an audience, because bizarrely you can get Viking stronger in Leeds than you can get Radio Aire. Power issues aside with that transmitter, the place is just abject, and that's why it's now greatest hits, I think. Yeah, the Scout Hut in Leeds is possibly one of the most depressing radio studios you've ever seen. Although I've got some happy memories of the place. You know, I interviewed Elbow there, and there were some lovely people in the office, to be honest.
I wanted to ask you about memorable people in your career who are off air.
loads. I've met some of the nicest people in radio. I've met some right a-holes as well. And John, if you and I had a list, they would probably match up.
Yeah.
Pretty well. But off air, it's the people in the office, the copywriters and the salespeople who, if they get what you're doing, either as a producer or a presenter or a programmer, if they get it, they will help and they will make everybody's life easier. And that's what makes, I can't believe I'm going to say this. It's what puts the team in radio.
Hang on. And the Wanker Award goes to...
No, but I think in far too many places, you work in spite of others rather than because of them. And I say that as a man bitter about my career, but yeah, if everybody's not on board, then it can be an absolute ass show. And if you've got copywriters, sound producers, all working in the same direction, good things can happen. But because I haven't worked in UK radio for so long, I don't know what that's like now because, I don't know if presenters get to see salespeople anymore, or
I don't think they do, mate. I don't think they do.
Things like just changing a couple of records on a music log must be so difficult now. Where back in the day at Viking, I used to do it, and then Dolby used to tell me off afterwards. So,
good old Dolby, what a legend he is.
It was a technical problem. You heard something on air you shouldn't have done.
Oh yeah. I want to move on to. You remember extracts?
Oh, it smelled so lovely.
It did, didn't it? The smell.
A fresh one.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
great observation.
That's the only reason why you wanted extracts, because it was full of pish and people's birthdays who you didn't care about.
Well,
oh, look, it's so-and-so's birthday this week. Don't give a crap.
You could apply for prizes. And,
yes.
And the rules were that you did it on air. So I don't know. I mentioned it at a previous podcast about we gave away sun cream or something like that. And then you'd have to go on air and go, sponsored by sun cream, whoever. But nobody could ever be asked to do that. They just wanted to blag the prizes. So I wondered if you'd ever blagged any prizes and then faked the demo to send back to Extracts.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. You're saying you had to do it on air. I don't know anybody who did it on air. At Viking, there was a day when everybody would go into the spare studio and dummy up their competitions. I got a really, really nice, I think it was an Oral-B Braun electric toothbrush from Extracts. Yeah. But I didn't really do it that much because the prices weren't all that great that often.
We need to talk about you because you've got a podcast now, so people can hear you on this podcast. It's called Top Content and it's brilliant.
It's all right. That's a nice podcast to go and listen to. It's just two middle-class, white, northern males talking. That makes it sound like it's like National Front. It's not. Top Content's good, but here in New York, I'm also producing corporate podcasts. I do a brilliant one called The Housing Problem. That's a very good podcast. It's not two white guys rambling. It's a black guy from Brooklyn and a Latino guy from Rochester, New York, talking about how weird New York City housing is. That's interesting.
Oh, yeah. Have you ever done voiceover work, Dan?
Absolutely never.
No? Oh, that's a shame.
No, because A, I think I've got one of those really annoying nasally off Yorkshire voices. And B, all the sound producers that I've worked with, and we've worked with some decent ones, they've never recommended me to do any voiceovers. So...
Can you not put I mean, now you're in America, surely you've got the accent. I mean, I'm surprised because your accent hasn't really changed. I thought because you've been there some time now, I thought you'd be like, howdy.
No, if I ever feel as if I'm slipping into an American accent, I watch James Corden, then punch myself repeatedly in the groin. So I'm never going to get the accent. Don't worry about that. I'll always sound like some hybrid wazzock.
Well, we like to finish the podcast by asking our guests to read the credits in their best voiceover style.
Okay, there we go. You have been listening to Crunch and Roll with me, Dan Morfitt.
Subscribe on your favourite podcast app to get every new episode as soon as it drops. Crunch and Roll is a 969 media production, presented by John Fox and produced by Simon Bushofsky.
Oh, yeah.